That you're saying that you're trying to put words in my mouth to create a headline. What I'm saying is we have plans. No, we have plans for everything. And should the president need a compel option, we have compel options and many different types of compel options. But right now we've set the conditions for 60 days to ensure that material is downblended, destroyed, or removed.
Meanwhile, the Kremlin, Putin, is putting out that Putin and Trump agreed that Witkoff and Jared Kushner will travel to Russia again in the near future. And then Putin says in his conversations with Trump, Trump expressed a willingness to exert influence on Kyiv and Washington's European partners. How's that gonna work, Donald? You're Mr. like junkyard boy, okay? Like, do you think you can exert influence on Zelensky right now and exert influence over Europe? Really? And that's what you're promising Putin you're going to do? Why don't you try to exert influence over Putin? Okay, why don't you support who America's allies are supposed to be? The reality is that you're not going to be able to exert influence over everybody because you're not influential. The world views you as a sickly, deteriorating clown on your 80th birthday who's quite literally clinically ill. That's how the world views you. Everyone's just hoping that they could possibly ride this out for the next 2 years before the world becomes totally just obliterated as a result of you and your weakness. But you will always be a stain on the world, and the name Trump will forever be associated with probably the worst human being, frankly, ever to one of the worst human beings ever to live. I mean, look at the harm that you're causing around the world right now. But J.D. Vance is out there doing his media circuit, and J.D. Vance is saying, do y'all see how healthy he is? I've never seen a guy with more energy, with more stamina than Donald J. Trump. Here's what Vance just said. Let's play it.
You know, my sense of the president's health is that it's off the charts good. His focus, his energy, his constant grinding. I mean, the presidency is a crazy job.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think about all of this.
Ladies and gentlemen, Robert De Niro.
I'm going to say one thing. Fuck Trump. It's no longer down with Trump, it's fuck Trump.
Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the video. We put a lot of time into research, fact-checking, and making sure every story we bring you is informative and meaningful. As an independent channel, your support truly keeps this work going. So if you find value in our reporting, please take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and help us reach more people with stories that matter. Your support means a lot, and it allows us to keep giving our best every single day. There are two ways to take down a powerful man. You can make people laugh at him, strip away the fear, the mystique, the strongman act, until he's just a punchline. Or you can make people afraid for what he's doing. Look them in the eye and say, this is serious, this is dangerous, wake up. The first one is comedy. The second one is gravity. And Donald Trump right now is getting hit with both, from two of the most famous sons New York City has ever produced. One makes you laugh, one makes you want to cry. And both of them, the comedian and the actor, have gotten so deep under this president's skin that his administration has come after each of them by name. Jimmy Kimmel and Robert De Niro, the jester and the tragedian. Different weapons, same target. And here's the thing that ties them together. The thing I want you to hold on to for this whole video. Donald Trump can't handle either of them. He tried to get one of them pulled off the air, and succeeded. For a while, he had his own White House trash the other as a washed-up has-been. Two completely different men, two completely different styles of attack, and the exact same reaction from the most powerful man on earth. He loses it. Every time. So today we're going to walk through both takedowns. The comedian who paid a real price for his jokes. The actor who keeps standing up no matter how old he gets or how loud they yell at him. And then I'm going to bring you to what Donald Trump is doing right now today on the world stage, because while these two New Yorkers are calling him out, he's off in Switzerland threatening to seize a strait by force, and it is exactly the chaos they keep warning you about. Let's get into it. Let's start with Kimmel, because his story comes with a body count, a career nearly killed for the crime of telling jokes. Jimmy Kimmel has hosted his show on ABC for over 2 decades, and for most of the last 10 years, he's been one of the sharpest, most relentless mainstream critics of Donald Trump on all of television. Night after night, he's gone after everything: the policies, the scandals, the family.
To turn around and betray us in this way. We must never fall for this mistake again. We must never fall into this trap. And when I play these clips, I want our United States audience, our Canadian audience, our international audience, we have a very big international audience, to truly reflect on a rapidly changing global world order and how big of a deal it is that Trump really screwed this up. You know, I think about Donald Trump talking about how he was going to make the reflecting pool so incredibly beautiful, and how all you have to do is paint it blue and it would get rid of the algae miraculously and it would just become spectacular. And I think about that as symbolic of this broader situation. Anyone who was looking at what Trump was doing with the reflecting pool would tell you it's only going to attract more algae. You're going to screw things up and it's going to look horrible. Anybody looking at what Donald Trump has done with his tariffs against the world, his catastrophic and unlawful war in Iran that he went into with Netanyahu, will tell you all you've done is just created a systemic shift in the global world order where you've irreparably weakened the United States. You realize that. And here's what Carney says. Let's play it.
Because over decades, governments and businesses prioritized efficiency over resilience, we all have developed supply chains and trading relationships that create dependencies that can turn economic integration from an advantage, which is what it was, into subordination.
More from Prime Minister Carney here, talking about true sovereignty. Let's play it.
But we recognize a second principle, that building true sovereignty cannot be achieved in isolation. It requires diversification, it requires partnership. And so we are focused on building a dense web of connections, said another way, ad hoc coalitions that work issue by issue with partners that share enough common ground to act together. And that's why Canada was the first non-European country to join the EU's Safe Defence Procurement Program. It's why we've signed 20 new economic and security agreements over 5 continents in the past year. It's why we're championing efforts to build a bridge between the Trans-Pacific Partnership and the European Union, something that would create a trading bloc of 1.5 billion people. A rules-based trading bloc of 1.5 billion people. These coalitions are also there to help solve global problems with a rules-based order that's under threat, the so-called variable geometry. In other words, building coalitions that focus on specific issues. From AI with India and Australia, to our critical minerals alliance with the G7, to nuclear energy with South Africa. These are examples of what Canada is doing.
He then talks about the Canada-Ireland-Europe relationship. Let's play it.
Canada, Ireland, and Europe are increasingly and more immediately vulnerable to once distant threats.
He's so stupid. Look at the lame, inane things that he said. He's so stupid, he can't even say anything clever or smooth. He's a moron. But he's a scary one. And in all seriousness, and we know it here, people have to get out and vote and vote and vote and vote.
Yeah. One time each.
Do
you think he pretends to be dumber than he is to confuse people and make them think? No, you think he's
no. I don't think so.
Why do you think? I'm curious why you would guess.
He did a whole bit recently tearing into Trump for skipping his own son Don Jr. wedding, pointing out the man had time for golf and UFC fights, but somehow not for his own kid's big day. When the White House press secretary Caroline Leavitt came after him from the podium, he fired right back on live TV and told her to clean up her own house before she had anything to say to him. He and Stephen Colbert pulled off the first ever late-night crossover, appearing on each other's shows the same night, and Kimmel said it out loud, they were doing it to drive the president nuts. And that Leavitt moment is worth slowing down on because it's the cleanest example of Kimmel destroying someone on live TV. The administration had come after one of his jokes, with the press secretary standing at the most powerful podium in the world, calling his rhetoric dangerous. And instead of backing down, Kimmel looked into the camera and flipped the whole thing around, essentially telling the White House that if they wanted to lecture anybody about toxic, dangerous rhetoric, maybe they should start at home with their own boss. The room erupted because he didn't just defend himself, he caught their heaviest accusation and handed it right back, sharper than it came. That's the comedian's destruction. Not a slur, a perfectly aimed return of serve, delivered with a smile on live television to the whole country. That's the comedian's weapon. The joke, the nightly puncturing of the strongman act. And it works. It works so well that the powerful tried to take it away from him. Because here's what happened to Jimmy Kimmel, and you have to understand it because it's the part that turns a comedy story into something much darker. Last year, Kimmel got pulled off the air. After some controversial comments, the chairman of the FCC, the federal agency that regulates broadcasters, a Trump appointee, started publicly making threats. He went on a podcast and said the government could do this the easy way or the hard way, about a comedian. He floated going after ABC's broadcast license. And then the dominoes fell. Big station groups dropped the show, and Disney, which owns ABC, folded and benched Kimmel indefinitely. Think about that, the machinery of the federal government turning to face a late-night comedy show, a joke treated like a threat to national security. That's not a man who can take a joke.
Or a significant improvement from the deal that we had in the first place and had worked for a long stretch of time before the United States pulled out of it. So I'm hopeful that bombing stops and ordinary people are no longer suffering as a consequence of the war. I think in retrospect, it's a reminder that on a lot of difficult foreign policy problems, the notion that we can just bully our way or bomb our way to solutions may sometimes seem appealing, but the fact of the matter is that taking the time to explore diplomacy and exhaust the possibilities of coming up with deals that don't solve 100% of the problem, but solve 80, 90% of the problem, while avoiding the necessity of going to war. You'd think we would have learned that lesson by now, but it seems like every so often we have to relearn that lesson again.
You can see.
And now MAGAs are also preparing for the midterms. And so what they're trying to do right now is things could not be worse off in the United States. They're just trying to scare people. And they're trying to do the name calling and the usual MAGA tricks that we've been warning you about. So this is MAGA Republican Congresswoman Lisa McClain. Here's what she has to say. Let's play it.
Resonating with the American people. What do you need to do to ensure you don't lose the majority in the House? What is the most important messaging you need to convey to voters coming up to the midterms?
Yeah, this is going to be a contrast for America. It's going to be a contrast election between common sense and crazy. Republicans were common sense. I think males should go in male locker rooms, females should go in female locker rooms. I actually think we should punish the criminal and take care of the victim. The other side is absolutely crazy, and that is what we need to focus on, common sense versus crazy. Also,
or here's what MAGA Republican Senator Katie Britt has to say. Let's play this clip right here.
And we're not going to let Democrats who are now run by anti-socialist, literally, I mean, they're run, excuse me, Maria, they are run by anti-Semitic socialists. And we're not going to let those people win the day.
Yeah.
And so you see the fear mongering and the tactics that they use. Back to Pete Hegseth for a second. And Pete Hegseth is being asked a very basic question, which is, so I'm just curious, are we going to put ground troops to get this nuclear material? What is the plan? What is this deal really about? Watch what Hegseth says right here. Let's play it.
It's an important point for those who are members of the U.S. military to understand whether you are saying ground troops would be involved in cleaning up nuclear dust.
Okay. I love you very much. I want you to know that, just going in, yeah. Did you have fun last night? Is it still fun for you as an obligation?
No, I had a nice time.
Nice time, yeah.
We have a couple of breaks, and people get up, go to the bathroom, walk around. It was fine.
The bathroom part was the highlight?
That was one of the highlights.
Did you go to, parties afterwards?
A couple, then I went home.
You won your first Oscar, 49 years ago, right? For The Godfather Part 2?
That's it, yeah.
You remember that feeling or any specifics of that night?
Yeah, I was actually in Italy doing a movie with Bertolucci called 1900, so I got a call about, I guess it was about 6 in the morning or something, their time, 9 hours later. And so I was shooting, so.
That's when you found out about the nomination?
Yeah, no, that's when I found out I'd won.
Oh, you weren't at the show?
No,
Oh, wow, you know what, that's big time. That's when you know you're a real movie star, when you don't even go and you win. Were you there the second time you won?
Yes.
You were there in person.
Yeah.
Were you at all dreading winning because you knew you would have to make a speech?
No, I didn't. That's okay.
That's okay.
I thought they had the camera. Barbara Streisand was saying it the other night at the SAG Awards. They have the camera on you, seeing what your reaction is. You got to look stone-faced.
That's where the real acting comes in, right?
Yeah, in a way. But it's nice. It was actually enjoyable. I had
That's a man who tried to erase one. Now here's the part that matters. The part that tells you who actually won. The public revolted. In the single week Kimmel was off the air, billions of dollars got wiped off Disney's stock value. The backlash was so enormous, so immediate, that they brought him back 6 days later. They had no choice. And Kimmel came back louder. He didn't tiptoe. He thanked the other hosts who'd stood up for him. He kept right on roasting. When Trump bragged that he'd taken out Colbert, whose CBS show got cancelled 2 days after Colbert called a Trump legal settlement a big fat bribe, and threatened the other late-night hosts, Kimmel mocked him for it and threw a picture of the president's ankles up on the screen. And when he won a Peabody Award, one of the highest honors in broadcasting, he used the speech to make a point that's really the whole heart of this thing. In a healthy country, he said, making jokes about the president shouldn't be a brave act at all. It should be boring. Routine. The fact that it now comes with suspensions and FCC threats. That's the story. So that's Kimmel, the comedian who got a real documented taste of what this administration does to people who mock it and who refuse to stop mocking it. He's proof in real time that this is a president who genuinely cannot take a joke. He didn't just get mad at Kimmel, he tried to make Kimmel disappear, and he failed. And it didn't even stop with the suspension. This spring, Kimmel made a dark joke about the First Lady at a comedy event, and less than a week later, the FCC ordered ABC to reapply for the broadcast licenses on the stations Disney owns on a rushed timeline. The chairman dressed it up as being about something else and didn't name Kimmel directly. But the timing told the whole story. The president and First Lady had been publicly demanding Kimmel be fired, and suddenly the government needed his network's licenses renewed early. Free press groups called it what it looked like, a federal regulator weaponized against a comedian. And even some Republicans got uneasy watching a government official waive broadcast licenses around every time a joke landed wrong. That's the thing about the Kimmel story. It stopped being about comedy a long time ago. It became about whether the government gets to decide who's allowed to make fun of the president. And the answer in a free country is supposed to be obvious. That's the first New Yorker. Now let's talk about the second one. Because if Kimmel proves Trump can't take a joke, Robert De Niro proves he can't take the truth either. Robert De Niro is 82 years old, 2 Academy Awards, one of the greatest actors who has ever lived. A man who could be on a beach somewhere, untouchable, beloved, leaving the fighting to younger people. And instead, he has spent the better part of a decade as maybe the most ferocious celebrity critic Donald Trump has.
That amidst this change, amidst this disruption, Canada, Ireland, and Europe can be pivotal, powerful, and purposeful, a force for good. Pivotal because we are the most connected region in the world, to each other, and to others. Canada has 16 free trade agreements with 51 countries, covering 1.5 billion people, 2/3 of global GDP, and we're on course to double that market access this year. The EU maintains preferential access to over 80 partner countries, making it the top trading partner for 80 nations globally. Together we are powerful because we have the capacity to act together. Combined, the population is more than twice that of the United States. We have a larger cultural export industry and a more diverse one, I might add, a similarly sized GDP, comparable R&D spend. Our collective defense budget's twice that of China's. We're home to the majority of the world's top 100 universities and over half of the world's Nobel Prize winners. So together, we are one of the largest economic, cultural, technological, financial blocs in the world.
And I think this is very important, where he talks about shared values and principles. And that's what we can rely on, that Canada, Ireland, Europe share the same values. And implicit in this is that we don't share the values of this Trump MAGA version of America. We thought we shared those values, but we don't. Here in Canada and Europe, Ireland, we believe that climate change is a real thing. We believe in human rights. We believe in democracy. We believe in these freedoms. And you don't in the United States. That's essentially what he's saying. Here, play this clip.
So with this common history, with these shared values, we have developed a unique worldview, transatlantic worldview, if you will, rooted in a simple but profound conviction that we are stronger when we are connected, that our prosperity grows when it's shared, and that we are the stewards of our lands.
And then he talks about, right before the speech, the rupture in the global system that's developed. Let's play it.
Now, there's one other threshold that I'll mention, at which Canada, Ireland, Europe now stand, and that's the rupture in the global system. From rules-based to arms-based, from right to might, from values to vanquished. Where will we go, and to what purpose? And I'd suggest that the thresholds that we have crossed and those before us have crossed, the shared values that have been forged in doing so, will bring us forward.
Earlier, he gave a speech as well in Ireland where he talked about how Canada has worked to deepen our partnership with the European Union. Let's play it.
Now, in parallel to our deepening relationship bilaterally, Canada is also working to deepen our partnership with the European Union, particularly during Ireland's upcoming presidency of the Council of the EU. We fully support your priorities for your presidency. First, increasing competitiveness, simplifying processes, deepening investment, diversifying trade, focus on strategic sectors, and resilience. Bolstering security with continued support of the EU for Ukraine, strengthening the defense and security industrial base.
On a Tuesday, and we're rolling this in on a Friday. Right. People watching at home right now, this is a Friday night. Right. And the Mueller report, such as it is, like what we get to see, comes out on Thursday morning, supposedly. Right. So, supposedly. You know, supposedly. So people out there know things about our government and our president that we don't know yet. Right. We do know, but you know, we got a pretty good guess. Who knows? You play Robert Mueller over on SNL. Yes. Over there. You called that. You recently called playing Mueller. You call that a civic duty.
Yes.
Why Why do you say that, sir?
I have no other way to say it, I guess. It's a civic duty. It's my obligation, my civic obligation to play Mueller.
Because that's the closest we've gotten to hearing what Mueller is going to say.
Well,
and I doubt that Mueller does as good a Mueller as you do.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he's only Robert Mueller. You're Bobby De Niro.
Well, I'm hoping that it goes further. I don't know what'll happen, but you know, I keep saying that I don't know whether this is actually possible in reality, but where I can handcuff him and take him away in an orange jumpsuit. That would be...
I assume you mean the President of the United States. You know what, Bob? Give him a chance. Why won't you give the President a chance, Robert?
No, you're right. You're right. That's what I said right after he was elected. Give him a chance. I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. This guy has proven himself to be a total loser.
And his weapon isn't the joke. It's gravity. It's moral fury. When De Niro goes after Trump, nobody laughs. They sit up straight. Go back to 2018, the Tony Awards. Live national broadcast, the entire Broadway establishment in the room. De Niro walks out to introduce a performance, raises both fists like a boxer, and drops 2 words about the President of the United States that the censors had to scramble to bleep. And the whole room, this crowd of polite theater people, leaps to its feet. A standing ovation for cursing out the president on live TV. Then 2024, Trump's on trial in Manhattan. And De Niro shows up outside the courthouse in his own city and gives this cold, surgical speech. This is my city, I owe it everything, and it's strange to see Donald Trump across the street because he doesn't belong here. One New Yorker telling another, "You're not one of us, you never were." And then this year, it got heavier. This past winter, De Niro went to the National Press Club in Washington to deliver a rebuttal to Trump's State of the Union, and he called the president, flat out, the enemy of this country. He urged Americans to resist. He said it was up to all of us to get rid of him at the ballot box. And around that same stretch, in a long interview, the man genuinely broke down, choked up, tears in his eyes, the tough guy gangster movie icon weeping about what he believes is happening to America. That's the gravity. That's a register comedy can't reach. And De Niro never stops. He's been a fixture at the No Kings rallies, the massive nationwide protests against what organizers call Trump's authoritarian streak, calling him an existential threat to the country's freedom, standing alongside Reverend Al Sharpton, calling the president not well, a damaged person, at Cannes, accepting an honorary Palme d'Or in front of the entire international film world. He used the moment to call Trump a Philistine president and warned that authoritarians always go after the artists first. And this isn't new for him, that's what people forget. De Niro clocked Trump early. Way back in 2011 at Cannes, years before Trump ran for anything, De Niro took a public shot at him over the racist birther conspiracy Trump was pushing about President Obama. In 2016, he recorded a blistering Get Out the Vote video where he called Trump a bozo, a punk, an idiot.
Oh, we'll make sure the military option is there. And that's the big difference between this and JCPOA and the way Obama did it. Obama, they begged Iran for a deal, and we bombed Iran and then put in a blockade and then ran ships through and then have restarted when necessary to ensure that they come to the table for a great deal. So our military posture will be whatever it needs to be to ensure they're compelled over this 60 days through the memorandum of understanding that they live up to what they said they would do. The document says Iran will never have a nuclear weapon, won't seek one, won't buy one, won't have one.
JCPOA said that too. In 60 days,
there'll be negotiations to make that final. But they didn't have the threat of military force the way that we do, that Iran respects in a very way that their regime is more devastated than it's ever been in its 47 years. And that's why they're at the table. So the huge difference is we did this from a position of strength. President Trump led with military might.
Then you have these MAGA Republican senators trying to spin it, like Deb Fischer of Nebraska. We did this from a position of strength. You think this is a position of strength? That's what's wrong with you, MAGAs. This ain't from a position of strength. I believe America's never looked weaker to the world. I mean, you may want to tell yourself that this looks strong, but if you truly believe that, then you've got a lot of issues. Let's play this clip.
Let's remember, the president's negotiating now from a position of strength. Iran is weak. We have gone in, we've showed the strength of America, and now the president's able to negotiate from a position of strength this time. It's not going in and just acquisition to what the Iranians want.
Then you have MAGA Republican Senator Tim Scott, and he's like, I get it. Gas prices are too high, but we are about to reduce these prices so damn quickly because of the deal. What, the deal that's not happening? The deal that you keep on talking about? This will be the 40th time of this. Let's play this clip.
Obviously, gas prices are just too high, and President Trump is making the right decisions in Iran that will lead to lower gas prices in the very, very near future. So I'm excited about bringing those prices down.
And let's check in quickly. What's going on at the White House right now? Are they treating the White House with dignity and respect, or have they turned it into a literal junkyard circus with lights that are beaming, that are preventing pilots from being able to see in this? I mean, it looks like some dystopian carnival from a zombie movie. And here's what's going on in the White House, everybody. Yeah, here, play this clip. And then you have this, which is just kind of utterly disgusting. This is what's one of the things that's happening in the White House too. A fighter, Josh Hockett, spitting on himself in front of the White House. This is what's taking place in the people's house right now, okay? This is what's going on, supported, endorsed by the Trump regime. Let's play it.
I mean, he's so blatantly stupid. He's a punk. He's a dog. He's a pig. He's a con, a bullshit artist, a mutt who doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't do his homework, doesn't care, thinks he's gaming society, doesn't pay his taxes. He's an idiot. Colin Powell said it best. He's a national disaster. He's an embarrassment to this country. It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has. He talks how he wants to punch people in the face. Well, I'd like to punch him in the face. This is somebody that we want for president? I don't think so. What I care about is the direction of this country. And what I'm very, very worried about is that it might go in the wrong direction with someone like Donald Trump. If you care about your future, vote for him.
He's been at this for 15 years, and he's clever about it too, not just fury. On one of the final episodes of Stephen Colbert's Late Show before CBS pulled it off the air, De Niro turned up for a bit and slipped in a joke about the Epstein files, the number of them this administration still hasn't released. He smuggled the single most uncomfortable subject for this White House into a comedy segment and made the room laugh while he did it. So De Niro can do gravity and the scalpel. But it's the gravity, the tears, the enemy of this country, the I want my country back, that's his signature. That's the register comedy can't reach. And then just this month, June 14th, De Niro got up at a concert in New York called Rise Up, Sing Out, a concert for the First Amendment, a benefit organized by Jane Fonda's relaunched Committee for the First Amendment, the same kind of group Hollywood legends formed back in the McCarthy era to stand against the blacklist. And De Niro gave a speech that's still echoing. He said that trying to love this country right now under this president is starting to feel like an abused spouse insisting they still love their abuser. And then he closed with 5 words that have become his whole mission. I want my country back. That's not a joke. That's a man in genuine pain about his country. And it's the exact opposite weapon from Kimmel's, but it's aimed at the exact same man. And here's a detail that ties these two together in a way that genuinely matters. They're both New York. Bone deep New York. De Niro is Manhattan incarnate, Tribeca, the festival he built downtown after 9/11's, the courthouse speech where he claimed the city as his own. Kimmel's a Brooklyn kid by birth before Vegas, and Ian, the man they're both going after, also New York. Queens, then Manhattan, the gold name on the skyline. So this is, in a real sense, a New York family feud playing out on the national stage. 2 of the city's most beloved sons looking at a third and saying, in their own ways, you don't represent us, and you never did. De Niro said it literally on those courthouse steps. This is my city. You don't belong here. There's something fitting about that.
Just torched Donald Trump in one of the most powerful speeches I've seen. He gave this speech in Dublin, in Ireland. Then he gave a speech before that in France, standing next to French President Emmanuel Macron. I want to show you just how powerful this speech is as Prime Minister Carney talks about the organization of a new world structure where the United States is essentially being pushed to the sideline and middle powers are uniting Canada, Europe, and others to form their own superpower right now, as Donald Trump's America First now means America alone. Watch as Prime Minister Carney talks about how the post-Cold War rules-based order is breaking down, it's under threat, and how multilateral institutions have weakened, and thus change is absolutely needed, and Canada is prepared to lead. Here, let's play this clip.
And for Canada and Ireland, it means harnessing our deep relationships as sources of strength. And this is an urgent task now, because the world is changing rapidly. Ireland and Canada are navigating a global rupture, not a quiet transition. The post-Cold War world of rules-based order is breaking down. Multilateral institutions have weakened. Economic integration, from which we have benefited, is being weaponized. The international trading system, which we've relied upon for decades, is under threat. And at the same time, new technologies from artificial intelligence to cyber and quantum.
We're in a very bad situation. I remember you and I about 5-6 years ago talking down at the Spring Studios, something about, I said, what just happened, just happened. No, it didn't. It didn't happen. It's all about truth. And what we have here is a denial of truth all over the place. And even the speech that he made after is insane. It's just insane, and I'm very, very concerned about it. I think we all are. It's insane. So that's why I felt I had to do something, say something about it, to go on record.
The strongman likes to wrap himself in the flag and the skyline. And the actual icons of that skyline keep stepping forward to say, not in our name. So how does Donald Trump handle these two? The comedian and the actor? Exactly the same way. He can't let either of them go. We already covered what he did to Kimmel, the suspension, the FCC pressure, the attempt to get him off the air entirely. That's the response to the comedian. And the actor? Within about 48 hours of that Rise Up, Sing Out speech, the White House came out swinging. Trump's own communications director fired back in a statement dismissing De Niro as a washed-up has-been who hasn't been relevant in 30 years, and then escalating, accusing him of inciting violence over a speech at a concert for the First Amendment. Now sit with that response because it's the whole pattern in miniature. An 82-year-old actor stands up and says he wants his country back, and the most powerful office on earth fires back with two things at once. You're irrelevant and you're dangerous. You're a washed-up nobody and you're inciting violence. Well, which is it? He can't be both. Unless he got under their skin badly enough that they grabbed every insult in the drawer at the same time. And that's the tell. It's the same tell with both men. Trump doesn't shrug off Jimmy Kimmel, he tries to get him fired. He doesn't shrug off Robert De Niro, he has his press shop call him a washed-up has-been. Over the years, he's called De Niro low IQ, a wacko, pathetic, sick and demented. He's called Kimmel's allies losers and dopes and threatened them with lawsuits. Two different men, two different art forms, two different kinds of attack, and the same furious, can't let it go reaction every single time. Because both of them land. The joke lands. The tear lands. And a man who needs to be feared cannot stand being either laughed at or mourned over.
Ron says there will be no deal signed today after Israel just attacked Indaya, Beirut, a massive Israeli strike derailing the purported deal between the United States and Iran, which was set to be signed today. Also, Donald Trump was going to have that UFC event tonight. Here's what we're hearing from the Weather Channel. UFC Freedom 250 is facing a chaotic weather setup at the White House South Lawn. 60% chance of thunderstorms, heavy downpours, and wind gusts up to 34 miles per hour, threatening to delay or perhaps totally shut down the outdoor fights. Rain, 30-mile-per-hour winds, and mosquitoes on the White House lawn. But more significantly, look at these Israeli strikes taking place right now in Beirut. They are blowing up full city blocks. This is a massive Israeli attack on the eve of a deal that was supposed to be signed today. And Netanyahu is now sending a birthday message to Donald Trump. Netanyahu posting a photo of himself hugging Donald Trump and saying, "Happy birthday. Our relationship has never been closer," as Israel is quite literally derailing the opportunity of the peace deal that we all expected. We're very skeptical of, though, in the sense that we believe that this exact situation would be happening. And here you can see these buildings being destroyed in Beirut right now. A diplomat is telling Fox this is a clear attempt by Israel to sabotage Donald Trump's deal and drag the United States back into war. But Netanyahu's message was happy birthday with a photo of him hugging Donald Trump. Doesn't that say everything right there? Meanwhile, Iran's parliament leader, MB Ghalibaf, and lead negotiator in connection with this deal, along with Foreign Minister Araghchi, put out the following statement.
And that's the scary part. It has to be neutralized by the people who say, wait a minute, our rights are being trampled on. We have to stand up, period. And the main thing I'm concerned about is at the polls, that they feel safe enough to go there without being threatened, feeling threatened, or repercussions.
You're always about lifting up everybody around you,
Yeah,
everybody.
of course.
Why is that?
You have to. You have to lift people up.
Why?
You have to bring them together. Period. You can't divide people. You can't win that way.
And here's why it matters that it's both of them together. Why the comedian and the actor are more dangerous as a pair than either one alone. Because they cover the whole emotional range. Think about it, most people don't get pulled into politics by a policy paper. They get pulled in by feeling something. And there are really two feelings that move people against a strongman: laughter and fear. The sense that the emperor is ridiculous and the sense that the emperor is dangerous. Jimmy Kimmel delivers the first one. He makes the absurdity land. He makes you see a man who skips his son's wedding for golf, who throws himself a cage fight for his birthday, who can't take a joke without calling in the federal government, and he makes you laugh, and in that laugh, the fear of the strongman dissolves a little. You can't fully fear a man you're busy laughing at. Robert De Niro delivers the second one. He makes the stakes land. He stands there, voice shaking, tears in his eyes, and says, "This is serious. This is your country. This is the moment." He makes you feel the weight of it. He makes you afraid in the way that gets people off the couch. You need both. The laugh gets people to pay attention, the gravity gets them to act. A movement that's all jokes feels unserious. A movement that's all doom feels exhausting. But the laugh and the tear, together, the jester and the tragedian working the same room, that's the full range of human feeling, all pointed at the same man. And that's a lot harder to ignore and a lot harder to silence than either one by itself. They tried to silence the comedian and failed. You can't exactly silence an 82-year-old Oscar winner for saying he loves his country. Between the two of them, the message gets through every door. So now, let me bring you to today, to what Donald Trump is actually doing while these two New Yorkers call him out. Because the thing they're both pointing at, the chaos, the spectacle, the strongman act, is playing out on the world stage right this minute. As of today, Donald Trump's big peace deal with Iran, the one he signed last week with great fanfare at a candlelit dinner in the Palace of Versailles, is turning into exactly the kind of chaotic, contradictory spectacle his critics keep describing.
Has the desire to fulfill its obligations or lacks the ability to do so. By giving a green light, you cannot achieve excuses. The game of bad cop and a good cop is already obsolete. If you have no will or ability to fulfill your obligations, there is nothing to talk about along the way. And Iran says, no deal. We will not be signing a deal today on your timeline. This is what you wanted. This is what you get. Donald Trump then posts, this morning's attack on Beirut should not have happened, particularly on a special day when we are so close to a peace deal with Iran. Israel has the right to defend itself against threats, but the attack it was responding to was very small and meaningless. Nobody was hurt, injured, or killed, and should not disrupt this important process. We are very close to a deal that will bring peace to the region, including to Lebanon, and all sides should stand down. There should be no more attacks by Israel anywhere in Lebanon, but there should also be no more attacks by any other party, including Hezbollah against Israel. This could be the beginning of a long and beautiful process. Let's not blow it! Exclamation point. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Well, Israel is also saying right now that Netanyahu called Donald Trump and rejected any possibility that Israel will withdraw from Lebanon, that it will withdraw from Syria, that it will withdraw from Gaza. Israel considers this its territories that it is occupying, and it says it will not leave these areas. And again, Netanyahu posting happy birthday messages to Donald Trump while absolutely destroying the United States foreign interest and our economy. And moments ago, Donald Trump just called up Barack Ravid, his stenographer over at Axios, a reporter at Axios, and Donald Trump just said, I mean, dude is actually panicking right now. Trump said, we were supposed to sign the deal this morning, and the Israeli strike in Beirut delayed it. I think the signing will take place today, but within the next few hours. He then said, why did Bibi have to do a fucking attack? I was so pissed off. I let him know he has no fucking judgment. Why did he do that? I conveyed this message to him. I'm very, very unhappy with the strike in Beirut right now. Meanwhile, a member of parliament from Iran is saying,
it's a no-win situation. And look what we have. Look who we have there. It's almost like a destiny to have this thing there, attempting to destroy this country, and maybe not even understanding why. So it's up to us to protect the country
that we love.
Yes.
We talked about how this is the moment. This is the moment that it goes one way or the other.
That's right.
You think it's going the other way?
I don't know. All I know is people have to resist. There's no easy way. It's not going to come to you easy. You know, there's a time when you know in your own life, in your own survival, you better do this. You better jump and run through the fire. Because if you don't run through the fire, you're not getting out. And that's what we have to do.
The technical talks meant to turn that signing into an actual durable agreement are happening right now at a luxury resort in Switzerland, overlooking Lake Lucerne, mediated by Pakistan and Qatar. And the news coming out of them is a mess. Let me give you the real substance fairly, because there is some. According to CBS News and NBC, Vice President Vance said today that Iran has agreed to invite international nuclear inspectors, the IAEA, into the country, possibly within this week, to monitor its nuclear facilities. The US Treasury announced it's suspending restrictions on Iranian oil for 60 days. And there's now a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Those are real developments. If they hold, they matter. Credit where it's due, but watch the way Trump is handling it, because it's pure strongman theater, exactly what Kimmel mocks and Niro warns about. Because while his diplomats are sitting in a Swiss resort trying to calmly negotiate, the President of the United States is on social media making threats that sound like a movie villain. According to CBS News, Trump threatened over the weekend that if a final deal isn't reached in 60 days, the United States will simply take over the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important shipping lanes on Earth, and start charging tolls to every ship that passes through. And his framing for it? He said the money would be payment for America acting as, in his words, the guardian angel to the countries of the Middle East, a protection fee for a waterway that isn't his. His ally Senator Lindsey Graham went on TV and spelled it out even more bluntly that if the diplomacy fails, Trump takes the strait by force. The US runs it, and if Iran contests that, in Graham's words, we will obliterate them. And Trump himself threatened to hit Iran very hard again over the fighting in Lebanon. So picture the split screen. Diplomats in a quiet Swiss resort trying to build peace point by point.
Right now, meanwhile, a member of parliament from Iran is saying, okay, this is what Israel did. We're going to strike back hard. Ibrahim Azizi, the leader of the Iran's parliament's National Security Commission, stated that a strong response is coming in response to the Israeli attack on Beirut this morning. And he said, if you can't control Israel, then there's no deal happening. The Trump regime needed to have their surrogates out there today to try to dance around around this and make the American people think that this is fantastic, as American people are going bankrupt, on the brink of bankruptcy, and are psychologically tortured. A former failed Fox weekend anchor, who is now the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, was on Face the Nation, and he was being asked about how is this deal that you're negotiating supposed to be different than the JCPOA that Obama did without having to destroy the American economy and destroy America's foreign interests? How is this different? And you'll see Hegseth just kind of muttering and stuttering, and he's like, because we used the military. We did it with lethality, which is everything wrong about their approach to everything. Do you think you got a better deal by breaking up the prior deal? And we're learning the terms of this current so-called deal. You're going to give $25 billion to Iran. It's kind of an undisputed term. And probably when you add up all the other investments and loans that are being promised, that number could be close to $300 billion. Iran will still control the Strait of Hormuz. And then it says in 60 days, then we'll begin negotiations regarding Iran's nuclear capabilities. And then rather than have a multilateral organizational structure confirm that Iran is actually getting rid of its nuclear material, it just basically calls upon Iran to downblend on its own. And it's just based on, just please do it. I mean, in the current terms that we are seeing, here is what Hegseth had to say. Let's play this clip.
Are you keeping the force posture in place through the 60 days of negotiations and beyond?
The bottom line is, it's Biden versus Trump. We want to live in a world that we want to live in and enjoy living in, or live in a nightmare. Vote for Trump, and you'll get the nightmare. Vote for Biden, and we'll be back to normalcy.
Yeah. So why is Trump winning? I mean, the New York Times poll this week came out, and maybe this will change it with the State of the Union address, but Trump was beating him rather soundly. It was quite a warning light, 48-43, also winning way more among women than he had before, winning outright Latinos. What do you attribute that to?
I don't know. I just don't want to feel the way I did, and many of us don't, after the election in 2016, where we couldn't believe that it happened. The guy is a total monster. And anybody, I don't understand it. I guess they get behind that kind of logic. They want to fuck with people, screw them, because they're unhappy about something. He's such a mean, nasty, hateful person. I'd never play him as an actor, because I can't see any good in him. Nothing at all. Nothing redeemable in him. And we have to, and whoever the people are who want to vote for him, and there look like intelligent people around there. Somebody, for some reason, it can't be. It cannot be. If he wins the election, you won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. There'll be things that happen that none of us can imagine. That's what happens in that kind of a dictatorship, which is what he says. Let's believe him, take him at his word.
I did from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I said from the very beginning, this guy is never going to concede power, and he still hasn't.
No.
He still hasn't. He just admitted he lost the last election, and he advertises that he will go on. He says he's been cheated out of one term, so maybe we should get rid of a president only gets 2 terms thing. So
he's a sociopathic, psychopathic, malignant narcissist.
And the president, online, threatening to seize a strait by force, charge the world tolls, and obliterate a country days after signing a peace deal. That is not a steady hand. That is a showman who needs to look tough, who needs the spectacle, who can't let the careful work happen without grabbing the microphone and threatening to blow it all up. And the cracks are showing everywhere underneath the photo ops. When the US, Pakistan, and Qatar lined up in front of the cameras to present a united front, the Iranian delegation reportedly declined to stand with them. A small thing, but in diplomacy, a deliberate, pointed snub. Reporting indicates the special envoys running the talks are out of sync with Secretary of State Rubio over how to handle Israel and Hezbollah. And Israel, for its part, has said flatly that it's not bound by the US, Iran ceasefire at all, even as a separate Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire in Lebanon just took hold after more deadly strikes. So the deal Trump signed in a palace is, right now, a tangle of competing agendas, mixed signals and allies who won't even stand next to each other for a photo. The signing was the spectacle, the substance is chaos. That's the gap these two men keep pointing at, the showman's flair for the ceremony and the mess underneath it. And here's the contradiction that really exposes the whole thing. The deal he signed, the actual document, calls for a massive reconstruction plan for Iran, worth at least $300 billion. $300 billion. That's why Republicans like Ted Cruz have been in open revolt, furious about handing that kind of money toward Iran. And Trump's response to that criticism? He went on social media and flatly insisted Iran will get no money, not 10 cents, even though the agreement he personally signed says the opposite. So the president is now publicly contradicting the text of his own deal, because the truth of it is politically inconvenient. That's the Iraq pattern all over again, isn't it? Say one thing, sign another, then deny the thing you signed. And it's exactly what both of these men have been telling you in their two different languages. Kimmel would make you laugh at the absurdity of a man contradicting his own signature. De Niro would make you afraid of a man who treats a war and peace like a reality show. Both of them would be right. And step back and look at the whole shape of this month, because it's almost too perfect an illustration of their case. This is a president who, in a span of about 2 weeks, threw himself an 83rd birthday UFC cage fight on the White House lawn with fighter jets.
Changing the nature of war, the structure of economies, and the possibilities of human advancement.
And then he gives his solution. And this is an echo also of what we heard him talk about in that powerful Davos speech a few months back, where he said, look, in a world where you have these great power rivalries that have developed, mid-powers can either become dependent on one of the great powers, or the mid-powers can unite, and we could be a great power if Canada, European Union, as he goes, Ireland, others, if we join forces together, think about how we can be unstoppable and stand up against these bullies. Let's play this clip.
The point is that in a world of great power rivalry, middle powers have a choice, which is to compete for favor of the great powers or to combine to create a third path with impact. The nations that invest in their own capabilities and partner with like-minded allies will multiply their strength. They become a more effective bloc to deter aggression, to protect their supply chains, and to realize their core economic interests, and because of the economic interests, their social values.
And again, speaking in Dublin, Prime Minister Carney talked about how right now many countries, ourselves included, are concluding we must develop greater strategic autonomy because the rules that we've come to expect in the past, the architecture, frankly, that was created in a rules-based order developed by the United States, Trump has thrown it out the window. We can't depend on those rules, so we must unite together. Again, a powerful message. Let's play it.
Right now, many countries, ourselves included, are concluding that they must develop greater strategic autonomy. And the impulse for that is understandable. Because when the rules no longer protect you, you must protect yourself. And a country that cannot feed itself, fuel itself, or defend itself has few options.
More from Prime Minister Carney here, talking about how for decades, governments and businesses prioritized efficiency over resiliency, and that has left our supply chains and trading relationships that have created dependencies. And we thought we could depend on certain countries like the United States that we thought were allies, only for them to turn around and betray us in this way.
Downey was great. He's a great guy, and it was terrific.
He is great, good. And he was very happy to win, and and I think everybody was very happy to see him win. Not that we didn't want to see you win, but you are at this point. You got a couple of those things already, and I feel like you don't even care, honestly.
in all seriousness, getting nominated is enough.
That's enough, yeah.
I mean, because you're saying one person is better than the other, and you can't really say that they're different.
And yet the 5 nominees, we're saying they're better than all of everybody else.
Yeah. Well,
yeah. You and I have something in common. We have both been immortalized on social media by our former president, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
We have, I think this might have been the first time he wrote about you. Robert De Niro, a very low IQ individual, has received 2, he spelled 2 wrong, many shots to the head by real boxers in movies. I watched him last night, truly believe he may be punch drunk, and then he says, at the end, he says, "Wake up, Punchy," he says to you. And that's not the only time, and he moved over to Truth Social. Robert De Niro, whose acting talents have greatly diminished with his reputation now shot, must even use a teleprompter for his foul and disgusting language. So disrespectful to our country. Now, in all fairness to the former president, is that true? Do you have to use a teleprompter when speaking about President Trump? Or are you able to just kind of riff on your thoughts on him?
Signed a contested peace deal in a literal palace of kings, threatened to seize an international waterway by force, contradicted his own signature, and had his White House attack an 82-year-old actor as a washed-up has-been for the crime of saying he loves his country. If you wanted to design a stretch of news to prove that Jimmy Kimmel and Robert De Niro have been right all along, the absurdity and the danger, the cage fight and the threats, you could not do better than the last 2 weeks of Donald Trump. And there are real stakes to whether their message gets through, beyond just the laughs and the catharsis. There's a midterm election coming this November, the same midterms Trump has openly mused maybe shouldn't even happen. And there's serious analysis out there arguing that the war on these voices genuinely matters for that election. Think about it. Millions of Americans get a real chunk of their political information from late-night comedy and from cultural figures they trust. So when you pull a Kimmel off the air, when you try to shame a De Niro into silence, you're not just settling a personal score. You're trying to shrink the number of trusted voices telling people what's actually going on right before they vote. That's why this is bigger than a celebrity feud. The comedian and the actor aren't just entertainers in this fight. They're 2 of the loudest independent signals left in a media environment the powerful are working hard to control. Which is exactly why the powerful keep trying to shut them up, and exactly why it matters that they won't shut up. So let me bring this home. When people ask me, did Jimmy Kimmel and Robert De Niro really destroy Donald Trump? Here's my honest answer, the same as always, because I don't sell fairy tales. Neither of them landed a single knockout blow. There's no clip where Trump crumbled and quit. That's not how this works. What they did is something better, and together it's something more complete. Between the 2 of them, they've shown you the whole truth about this man in the only 2 languages that actually move people. Kimmel showed you he's ridiculous, a man so thin-skinned he sent the federal government after a comedian, a man you can laugh at.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you would please.
And folks, with all of this disinformation out there, with all of these lies from the Trump regime, it's just so important that we have accurate news sources right now. And I often get asked, Ben, what type of sources do you use to make these videos, and how do you kind of research and study to maintain your objectivity? I use Ground News. I partner with Ground News to stay objective in my reporting. It's an app and website that pulls in thousands of articles from around the world and organizes them into how the left is reporting them, how's the right framing it, how's the center framing it. And for every story, they give me a color-coded layout to make it easy to see the political bias of each source. I can also see independent news versus news that's related to corporate interests. And so I can compare different stories and see how they're being reported. Let's give you an example. This morning, this article, Palestinian death toll in Gaza tops 73,000, officials say, as Israeli continues to strike despite the ceasefire, which we should be calling a fake ceasefire. This is being heavily reported on the left and in the center, but it's getting almost quite literally, basically zero coverage on the right. And so they're just not being educated and told what's really happening out there. And there's a cover-up of the genocide. genocide that's taking place, and I think that's a big deal. And I want to study how are different people getting their news sources. Ground News has this dedicated blind spot feature. It's a personal favorite of mine, which highlights stories being disproportionately covered on different sides. So I believe in Ground News so much, so I'm going to offer you 40% off the same Vantage plan that I use for my research. Just go click the link in the description or go to ground.news/MTN or scan the QR code up here. It's one of the biggest discounts they've ever offered. If you want to support this channel and get a clearer understanding of the world, try out Ground News. One more time, go to ground.news/MTN or scan the QR code up here. Getting back to my video right now, I want to talk about former President Obama was asked about everything that was going on right now. Here's what Obama had to say. Let's play this clip.
It is doubtful that any agreement that arises
He is a dangerous person. And we have to people realize, a lot of people, this audience, but the people who somehow think he's going to be the answer to their prayers, whatever those are.
Did you know
God
him
knows.
when as fellow New Yorkers?
Never wanted to know him.
Never wanted to?
No.
You must have
He
crossed...
was an idiot. He was a clown. He was a clown in New York. And New Yorkers say, you know, some would go with him, of course, people who work in what he does, some of them. But it's just, he's a classic bully. If you had a schoolyard and he walked in and he had his bully friends around, the other people decide whether they want to oppose him or they want to let him just tell him what to do and own the schoolyard or the basketball court or whatever it is. He's got to be stopped.
And De Niro showed you he's dangerous, a man worth crying over, worth resisting, worth getting off the couch about. The laugh and the tear, the jester and the tragedy. And the proof that both landed is the same in both cases. Trump couldn't let it go. He tried to silence the comedian and failed. He tried to dismiss the actor and only proved the point. And here's the thing they share. Underneath the comedy and the gravity, they both refuse to be afraid. That's the whole game with a strongman. His power runs on fear. And here are two of the most famous New Yorkers alive. One cracking jokes and one shaking with anger, and neither of them is afraid of him. Kimmel got pulled off the air and came back louder. De Niro got called a washed-up has-been by the White House, and he's still standing on stages saying, "I want my country back." You cannot make either of these men flinch. And a strong man who can't make people flinch is just a loud man in a big house. So while Donald Trump is off in Switzerland threatening to seize a strait and charge the world a protection fee, two sons of New York are back home reminding everybody what he actually is. One of them will make you laugh about it tonight, the other will make you weep about it, and both of them are telling you the same thing in the end. Don't be afraid of this guy, laugh at him, stand up to him, want your country back. The emperor sent his men after the jester and the tragedian, and both of them are still here, still talking, still unsilenced. That tells you who's actually winning. Hey, if you made it all the way here with me, thank you genuinely. You're the entire reason this channel exists, and I don't take a second of it for granted. We're independent here. No giant network sitting on top of us, no corporate bosses deciding what we're allowed to say, and after watching what they did to Jimmy Kimmel, you understand exactly why that independence matters so much. It's just us doing the digging, going through the actual reporting, checking the sources, and tying it all together the way the big outlets too often won't. This breakdown alone pulled from the reporting on Kimmel's suspension, the coverage of De Niro's speeches and the White House's response, and the news coming straight out of the Iran talks in Switzerland today, because this stuff moves fast, and you deserve to have it connected, not thrown at you in pieces. So if this gave you a new way to see all of it, hit that like button right now. 1 second, and it genuinely helps us beat the algorithm. Subscribe if you're not already, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one, because with this administration, believe me, there's always a next one, usually by tomorrow. And share this with one person. Just one, somebody who needs to see it. That's how independent voices win. One share at a time. And get in the comments, tell me which one gets through to you more, the comedian who makes you laugh at Trump, or the actor who makes you take him seriously. I genuinely want to know. I read every single one of these. Let's talk about it down there. This has been your independent breakdown of the story they'd rather you scroll right past. Stay sharp out there, stay loud, and like the man said, let's get our country back. I'll see you in the next one.